Now, I knew that there were a lot of people out there who are ignorant when it comes to anime, and then there are some people who are just downright intolerant of it. But what honestly surprised me was when a while back I asked on my Facebook fan page for people to tell me about some of the negative stigma attached to anime. Whenever they tell somebody that they watch anime, some of the negative reactions that they get, and my mind was blown when I saw that a few people were saying that people tell them that anime is porn, and it really surprises me because it's not. You can't simply label an entire medium as pornography just because there is porn that looks similar. You can't do that. Anime is simply a medium in which a story can be told. The only differences between anime, TV shows, and movies are that anime is animated. It's made in Japan by people that are different from a different culture. So people don't really understand that, and I get that. But just because they can see a little bit of it which is pornographic doesn't mean that they can label the entire medium as being pornographic. Just because if you look at movies and TV shows from anyone's home country, you can have TV shows and movies for children. You can have them for anybody, and then you can have them for adults, and of course you have them of the pornographic nature as well, but that doesn't blanket all of them as being pornographic or as being for children, because those are two extremes which don't even meet. But you can't label them all that just because it doesn't make sense and it's not true. Now, when you're talking about the sexual nature of anime, there are a few key terms that you need to familiarize yourself with, such as hentai, fan service, yuri, and yaoi. So the easiest way that I can explain this to you is by a series of questions which you must ask yourself. Question number 1 is, have you ever seen what you are labeling as pornographic? Watching clips of it online, looking at pictures on Google, looking at a DVD cover, or looking at trailers does not constitute as actually watching something. Therefore, your opinion is not your own, and it is not valid to me. Go ahead and grab whoever's opinion that is, bring them to watch that video, and this will explain it to them, and then they can explain it to you, because that's how you want it anyways. If you're not going to investigate anything, you're just going to go on everything by word of mouth and just assume it's real. So I'm not interested in explaining it to you. So if question 1 does not apply to you, question 2 is, have you seen genitalia displayed in an erotic manner? If you have not seen that, then it is not pornographic. It is simply erotic, which is not porno. Now, this question draws the line between what is pornographic and what is erotic. Now, with anime, it goes by different terms. With anime, we have the words fan service and hentai. Hentai means pervert, but it also means porno. In anime, we have hentai, which is anime pornography, and then we have eroticism, which is simply fan service. Fan service could really mean anything that is done to please the fans, but in anime, most specifically, it is meant as panty shots or cleavage or occasionally a side boob, or maybe you'll get a nipple. But these are all things which exist in certain TV shows in the West and also movies. And in movies that you see these things, you do not consider them pornographic, such as, for example, the movie Titanic. There's nudity. There's a sex scene, not pornographic. Any movie you can think of which has sex, which has nudity in it, but it isn't shown in an erotic manner where the genitalia are shown, then that is not pornographic. Now, when you look back at anime, it's either going to be porn, which is hentai, or it's going to be fan service, which is simple eroticism. It's not going to be both. It's either going to be one or the other. There is a line between the two. All anime which contain fan service are not hentai. So the next two terms are yuri and yaoi, which aren't always associated with hentai, but they're associated with it enough for me to have to explain it. These basically mean boy love and girl love, and I would expect that most of the time they're aimed towards bisexual or homosexual males or females, but with anime, a lot of the times it's the exact opposite. With yuri, which is girl love, which is a series about two bisexual or homosexual women, and yaoi, which is a series about two bisexual or homosexual males. Now, what's strange about anime is that you'll get the exact opposite effect of this, because women, for some reason, love to watch yaoi, and I don't get it, of course. I'm not interested in watching anything like that. And then there's Yuri, which some guys will watch, and I'm not really too sure about that. I've seen 1.5 Yuri series, and they weren't porn, they weren't hentai or anything. There were fan service, simply because in these series you will find fan service at times, I assume, because I don't watch yaoi, but there is fan service there because there is fan service all throughout anime, not in all series, but you will find it in a lot of different series, simply because that sort of thing will sell with people. In Japan, that's what people buy, so that's what's in the series. If their audience was different, then the product would be different. They do it for a reason, and that's to make money. So when watching anime, more times than not, you'll find a series which contains some sort of fan service or semi-eroticism, but this is something which is represented in movies and TV shows as well. It's not porn. It's not something that I can say is classy, it's not something that I can say is tasteful, but it's certainly not porn. Sometimes I will get comments from people saying that certain anime is porn, and that's one of the reasons why I'm making this video. Now, one anime that people love to talk about, people love to say it's porn, is High School of the Dead. Now, in episode 6 of High School of the Dead, there are a few women in a hot tub, topless, and they're groping each other and playing around with each other, and that could be considered the softest softcore of porn. That is very softcore if you were to just watch that episode by itself. But that is one episode out of an entire series, and people talk about episode 6 because it's just episode 6. If that happened throughout the entirety of the series, then you could have justification in saying that that is some sort of softcore porn. That sort of thing is not actually porn because it has no genitalia, it's simply topless. You can watch a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows which have this sort of nudity. It's not pornographic. But what really shocks and surprises me is on some videos about certain series, or on other people's videos about certain series, or on forums about other series which contain no nudity, which contain very little fan service, people will call it porn, and that makes no sense to me. So just a little bit of a disclaimer before I get into how I feel about this whole situation. The majority of my audience is over the age of 18, 70%. I actually checked in the last month of people watching my videos, 70% of them were over the age of 18, and this is really who all of this is directed towards, the over 18 crowd. I think it's good for people to understand, for people to learn about sex. I think it's good for people to understand what is porn and what is not porn. But for my particular opinions, it's mostly for the people who are 18 and over, just because I can't really say certain things to people who aren't. So having said that, whenever I see these comments about people saying that a certain series is porno, even if it has a small amount of fan service or just a modicum of nudity, which is really no different than certain TV shows or movies in the US, so it's not that big of a deal, but whenever I see this, I think to myself, how sheltered of a life are you living? How repressed is your own sexual nature here? You keep everything in this little box, and it really doesn't make sense, because if you don't know that that's not porno, then what do you think about things from your own country whenever you see a TV show with a small amount of nudity or a movie with a small amount of nudity? That doesn't make it porn. So how repressed are you? How sheltered are you that these things can offend you to the point where you're calling it pornographic? One thing I'm always tempted to do, but honestly I have never done it, I think it would be hilarious though, is that whenever I see these comments, I want to link something so grotesque from the bowels of the internet, pull it out, and just lay it there on the table. 2 girls, 1 cup, or things even worse that I don't even want to name. Just link that to them, and then just see what their mind makes of it, because if they can see just a small 5-second topless scene, which is in the context of the actual story, to be pornographic, then what would they think of the monstrosities of some of the certain videos which exist on the internet? But it's not worth doing it, because if they don't know the difference between what is sexual and what is not sexual, or what is pornographic and what is not pornographic, or what is or isn't erotic, or anything, I don't need to do this. I'm not their parent. You know, I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm not going to sit here and parent anybody. These are things that people should learn on their own. And a lot of people grow up repressed, and they will find things like this offensive in their 20s, in their 30s, even later on than that. And it makes me feel like, are you living this double life? Because you can't be serious. You're in your 30s, or you're later on in life than that, and you find certain things such as nudity to be offensive. Like, are you serious? Have you not lived? Or are some of these people living a double life where they watch porn themselves and then in front of others they will bash certain things about it just so that they will look like, you know, their reputation is unstained or something because they haven't watched pornography? And I think that it's something that everyone watches if you're, you know, of the right age to watch the stuff, of course, but I think everyone watches it, and there's nothing wrong at all with understanding your sexuality. There's nothing wrong with knowing about it, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying it. Of course, you can go too far with it. You can go too far with anything. You can go too far with much less obscene things, and it could still be harmful. There's really nothing different about porn, and I think it's healthy for people to understand that sort of thing. So anyways, that has been my thoughts on this topic of whether anime is or is not hentai or pornographic, which obviously it's not. Leave me your thoughts about it in the comments section below. Let me know about times where people have told you that it's porn, or let me know what you think about the situation in general. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you later.